grounding ourselves in what you've actually been given for the assignment and what you're being asked to build. Before we open LibreOffice, we're going to go through how to install it and then how to open our documents. It's important to understand how this data that you're receiving maps onto structures of a database and how that support structures the questions that you're eventually going to be asked to answer. For the assignment, you're not designing a database from scratch. You're going to be provided with a zip file that contains 3 CSV or comma separated value files. Each of these CSV files already represents a table, so you've got the data there already. Your task is to take this existing data set and import them into LibreOffice Base, define their structure correctly, and then to connect them all through the relationships and query it so that you can answer a specific question. Now, if you have any issues with LibreOffice, it does work cross-platform, but sometimes somebody's computer may not work with it. Then there are many different ways in which you can solve this. You can use actually any database program if you'd like. I use this one only because you can define the relationships in a visual builder and it's cross-platform. It's something that you can do in something like Microsoft Access Ready, but that has historically been Windows only. I want to emphasize from the start that a common mistake is to treat this like a spreadsheet exercise. You can use the logic of it, open it up as a spreadsheet, and we're going to be opening up in the spreadsheet equivalent of LibreOffice Calc, but it is not necessarily a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is primarily organized around cells. Now it's going to have our columns, which are usually represented by letters, and then our rows represented by numbers, and it looks a lot like that. We use formulas and calculations then to locate information in those rows and columns into those individual cells. We locate it, and then we can perform functions on it, compute them, etc. A database, by contrast, is organized more around meaning. Each column represents a specific type of information, as we've discussed before. Each row represents an individual record, and relationships between the tables allow the database to understand how different kinds of information belong together. So we're going to move over to the computer now, and we're going to get started looking at the files which you've been given as we go through this series of videos on how to build your database project. Let's start by looking at the files that you've been given. When you open the zip folder attached to the assignment, which you can see here, here's our database project, you're going to be provided with the CSV dataset to use in building this simple relational database and its relationships. I'm going to send you a question, which will require you to query the database to answer a question about its contents, and you're going to provide a proof of your work, giving a complete step-by-step explanation of what you did to achieve the answer. You should describe everything that needs to be done, and we'll go over it a bit more as we go through this series of videos. Please include the working file that supports your process. So however you have built the database, that you're going to include either that database or whatever files that you end up using. I'm going to walk you through how to use LibreOffice Base to do this because it's a cross-platform visual database builder. If you have other experience with databases, you're welcome to use whatever platform that you want. And if you're finding using a specific database program tricky, know that you can use logic and connect the data in the same way that we have in our assignments leading up to this project without needing to construct a database as well, as long as the answer is correct. Though I will want you to include the files, and it is ideal, so that you understand how the relationships work and have that set up, that you are following along. But if for any reason you run into technical issues or you have skills that allow you to do this with another database platform, you're welcome to do that as well. I would ask that you discuss it with me first. Ultimately, the database design is worth 20% of the grade. So if you just provide the answer, even if it's correct, the most that you can get is 80 on this assignment. So I need to be able to open the database and take a look at it and make sure that it's working correctly and that all the functions are there, however you build it. Then 40% of it's going to be the query result. It's a sort of a yes, no. Did you get the right result or not for it? You might want to find some way of verifying this. And then the step-by-step process, the proof, is worth 40% as well, how you did this. But you'll see here that you're going to submit only the direct URL to the page on eClass, the page on your website. If you don't submit a direct link to it, if I have to click through to something else, now if you put it in the password protected section, that's different. But if the link goes to some other part of your page and I have to look for it, that's not going to be considered turned in. If you put it onto your website and you don't submit the URL eClass, you also won't receive credit for it. I'm going to say that up front so that later on when you do the questions, you don't say like, well, I did the work, but why am I not getting credit? It's because you didn't submit it in the correct way. And this is important throughout it. This is one of our first assignments where we're being explicit about this, that everything for this term is going to be submitted through URLs on your website that you are maintaining through the end of the term. So you can submit it here, but you can see that there is a database project file here, which I'm going to click on, and it's going to download that for me. Now that it's downloaded, I'm going to go over and pull over my download folder here. Nothing exciting in here. And I'm going to double click on the zip file just so that I can open it right now. Depending on your level of proficiency, you might do something else with that. But you should be able to archive this without an issue. And you will see that there are 3 files in here: empty dataset, customers, CSV, orders.csv, and shows.csv. Now, these will, by default on my computer, a CSV is set to open in Excel, but I'm going to want to open these in LibreOffice Calc, their spreadsheet platform. That's part of that. Now, if you don't have LibreOffice, let's take a look briefly at how we install that. So I'm going to go back to my browser here. There's Google. And I've got the link directly on the page there, but if for whatever reason you don't come there, I will point out that you can just find LibreOffice. It's at libreoffice.org. So you can click on download here. There's also a download menu. It's going to try and identify what your computer is right now. So it's recognizing that I'm using Mac OS on Apple Silicon, but you can also pick what your platform is here. And it works across Mac, Windows, and Linux if you're running that, right? At different levels. It should identify what it is in the latest stable version, here being 25.8.4. You can get more experimental versions, but it might be more likely to crash. And I'm going to go ahead and hit download. It's going to ask me to donate. You're welcome to. It is otherwise free. It is open source software, but it's nice to pay for it. You can, if I go into download here, you'll see that there's an option to download it on the App Store, either for Windows or for Mac, which can make it easier. Or if you have some security limitations on your computer that you don't have full admin access to it, so it's going to have issues with installing it from a disk image. So instead of going through the App Store, if you want to get through the App Store, you can. The issue is that they do impose a fee upon doing it through that method of getting it through the App Store so that you can donate to it. It's $11.99 Canadian. I think it's $8.99 US. If we take a click on it through the Apple App Store here, you can see that there is the Apple version of it there. If you go to the Microsoft Store, you can, I don't normally buy things from the Microsoft Store. You can also get it from here as well. Let me share that there. So there are alternatives for how to install it. It has downloaded. I don't know if you saw that pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my downloads folder here, and you can see that it is available. Now, all I need to do for this is actually to drag it over. It's here. So I'm going to drag it into my applications. Mine, because I have a previous version, is going to say, and go ahead and replace it. That's fine. It's going to go ahead and install that. I have some of my preferences already built into it. Those are going to carry from versions if you had previous versions of it. I don't have the most updated version of it, so this is probably a good thing for us to go through right now as well. You can see it's moving relatively fast to be able to copy it into my applications. And we're done. So I can go ahead and close this as well. I'm going to open LibreOffice. Now, I like to do that through the launcher. However you decide to do so, here we go. It's going to open up. I don't have all my screen being recorded, so you're going to see things sort of off center here. LibreOffice is an app download from the internet. If you've never downloaded non-app store software before for Apple, you are going to see this, and it's here. Now, depending on your security settings, it might not let you. Mine is set up to allow other developers that haven't gone through the App Store to be able to open this. I'm going to go ahead and open it. to open it for me and put it here. If for whatever reason you do run into an issue there, let's go ahead and make sure this fits into my recording window here. You can see that I've got it here, and I don't have my menu at the top there, but that's fine because we're going to do most of the stuff in the window that we're working with. Now you can see down the left-hand side, we've got Writer or word processing, Calc, which is for spreadsheets, Impress, which is their presentation software, which later on, if you decide that you want to, I don't have a video about it, but you can use it. Drawing for drawing, Math for formulas, and beyond, not for spreadsheets. And then Base, that's what we're going to be working on. We're going to create a base database in there. So I'm not going to click that yet. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to end up opening all of my files as a Calc spreadsheet, because that's actually going to be the easiest way for me to put them into a table later, even though they're already CSVs for what's coming out. Now, let's take a look at these files then. So I'm going to go back into my project files here. Now, if I open this, I'm going to open it with a text editor right now. I'm going to use BBEdit because we've looked at it before, and you'll be able to open it as text. This is what we mean by a comma separated value. So this has a table in it. Every line is a new record within it, and all of the different pieces of data are separated by a comma. The first record being the titles for everything. So this is what this file looks like. Whenever you see a CSV, this is what it looks like, right? So we'll go ahead and close this. We don't need that. All right. So now I'm going to open it instead. By default, it's going to open with Microsoft Excel. That's how my computer's set up. You might have it set up that way as well. I would suggest that you make sure that it's opening up with LibreOffice, and it's going to come up with this window here, which is a text import automatic. It's going to detect what the separator is, in this case columns, and it can see what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I don't need the tip. And you can see here, though small, that it has opened it up as though it were a spreadsheet, right? I can go ahead and close these various things behind it so you get a nice clean view of it, that it has what we have here as a spreadsheet. Here's our data set for the customers. And you can see the same information. You see in that first row within a spreadsheet, in row 1, the unique identification, first name, last name, address, if there's a second part of the address, city, province or state, postcode, country. It's all made up information of various things in here. Maybe something actually exists. It's a combination of things, but it's here for us to work through. Now, the other files that we have in here, if we go back to the Finder, or wherever your files are, my download folder in this case, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the orders as well. You can see here that it's just a series of numbers. So let's go ahead and we'll change that. That opened up too big instead for my recording space here. There we go. So you can see here that we have a unique identifier, people ID, show ID, quantity, and price. This is all going to be useful information for you. And the last file that we have here is the shows. And this is a table that describes the shows that these people are going to see. You can see here. Click OK. Again, opened a little bit bigger than my window here. So shrink it down, and you can see here, unique identification, just 1 through 10. The title of the various shows that are here, the author of the shows, or the playwrights here, the date when these shows will happen. I've been using this file for quite some time, so the data in this is nearly 10 years old in it, but still works all the same, and the time of that show. And you can see that it's split up between 8 p.m., 7:30 p.m., and 3 p.m., a matinee. Oh, there's a 7 p.m. in here as well. All right. All important details to remember, because these will correspond to various things that will come up in your queries. So now we have the first thing that you should do is that you should look at each of these files and look at them and see that there is a column for each of the pieces of information, right? First, we have a column that functions as a unique identifier. This is typically labeled as something SID or UID. Here I've labeled as UID. The column is crucially important because this is the unique identification that we talked about in the previous module to make sure that the database can distinguish one record from another, even when information might be the same for most. Like here, we have multiple records in our show data set that are by Shakespeare. So if we were organizing things by author, then these would have a conflict, right? So we need to have individual unique identification for each of these elements. Sometimes dates can be the same. Obviously, there are times that are the same for each of these. That's why we need that unique identifier. But this combination of information in each of the records is an individual thing that is important for us to be able to distinguish. Let's see. Okay, so as you inspect the CSV files, you'll also notice you'll see these values repeat of it, which is why that UID is important. And this is going to bring us to the idea of the relational structure. If we look at the orders table that I've provided you with, you'll see that there are unique identifications and not necessarily in order here. They've actually been ordered, in this case, by show ID. I can put these in whatever order I want. These are unique identification for each of the files, each of the rows here. And these are showing who is the person, the unique identification for the person, the unique identification for the show, the quantity of tickets that are purchased, and the price of those tickets. Now, if I were building an actual box office database, which I have in the past, we'd probably have a price table. So we'd have different sort of tables so that we'd pull from that as various options there, as opposed to everything here is $10. It's to make the answering of the questions later that much easier to deal with. And the quantity is just a number there. That would probably be in the order. And this is assuming one ticket type for it. So this is a simplified database compared to what you'd actually be using if you were to build an actual database. You could use something like this if your prices were all the same, at which point you probably actually wouldn't include it in the table, and that the only variation was the quantity of tickets that were there. That would be the orders that you're looking at. How many tickets is each person buying to each show? This is what this is telling you here. So this is already, you can see that I've already sort of indicated what the relationships are. This is a table that is going to connect people to shows, and it's going to say how many tickets they're purchasing and what the price is of each of those. Now, by keeping each of these things separate, the database becomes a lot more flexible, more accurate, and easier to query. The understanding is essential for this assignment, both in the paper prototype you're going to create for this module assignment, and then the project that you're working on, because part of your grade is based off of the design. This does not necessarily mean inventing new data. You shouldn't have to change any data here. You can use what's here. We might have to end up with a duplicate column for the UID because it's going to want to auto-create it for us as we're building it here. Even though it's here, we want to make sure this lines up so that I have the answers to the questions that I'm going to give you. And it means correctly recognizing what the existing data represents and setting up in a way that preserves those relationships. It also establishes for the written proof that you're required to submit, right? These are part of the steps that you're going to put in there. You're going to be asked to describe what you received, here are the CSV files, how you understood that data, and why you took the steps that you did. You can just sort of reiterate what I'm doing here, step by step. Well, that's fine. I'm not asking you to invent anything, but I do want you to understand that those steps are important, right? Being able to say clearly in your own words what each table represents and how they relate to each other is the foundation of that explanation, right? So in our next video, we're actually going to move from reading the data to building the database. You'll create a new LibreOffice base file. We're going to import each of those CSVs as a table and then define the fields and primary keys properly. For now, though, in this video, your goal is simply to familiarize yourself with what's happening here. I'll tag on here instructions on making sure that if you run into any sort of alerts, at least the ones that I'm familiar with installing LibreOffice, that I can show you where you might look for that. If you do have issues with installing it, I would recommend just attempting to install it earlier rather than later. Like, don't wait for the assignment. Don't wait till the weekend before the project is due to get started on installing LibreOffice, even if you do the work around the databases and the tables later. I understand that happens, but so that you have time to ask questions or we can troubleshoot the technical issues. Technical issues are not a reason that you can't turn it in. Now, if you need an extension, that's different. You can always ask for an extension ahead of the deadline. But if you make it to the deadline, and when you've made it to that deadline, you've run into a technical issue, then you're like, I ran into a technical issue, so I couldn't turn it in. Then no, they're not gonna reopen the assignment without an extension if you haven't attempted to do that. So if you think you might run into that, or you want to try it, come back and see that, I'm going to tag right now onto this video, take a little bit of a pause, and show you some of the areas, at least for Mac, where you might run into issues. Okay, so if you are on Mac, this might be familiar. This is my system settings. Nothing particularly interesting here for it, but don't hack my system. You can see that I have an Apple account here. In your security, privacy and security system. There's a lot of information here, right? That's going to allow you to do various things. Now, as you saw when I went to install or open LibreOffice on my computer, because it was a new version of it, even it being a new version of it, it made it so that I had to approve because it wasn't coming through the App Store. So it didn't have an Apple signature tied to it, right? So that means you have to approve it to be able to be run on your computer. It is to protect you because random stuff can happen. It is open source software. It's one of the things to be mindful of. But here we're going to make sure that you know where you can go to approve the use of it. This does require you to typically have admin access to things to be able to run things that aren't there. Sometimes it requires a couple of clicks. Again, if you run into the issues, I can walk you through this a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and take the next steps. The first thing that you want to do is scroll down here. You'll see one that says allow applications from. By default, usually it's set to App Store. If you're going to download a piece of software like LibreOffice, as opposed to purchasing it through the App Store, which will solve this problem entirely, but costs money, then you want to go to App Store and known developers. This will allow you to install things from approved developers. That's the first thing that happens. Usually that means that then you will get that notification that says, do you want to open this anyway? This is not from the App Store. Use at your own risk, essentially. Now, if this doesn't work and you try and open the software and it still says you can't open it, it just says, okay, this is an unknown developer here, you can come here and because I've already approved it, it's not going to show it to you. There will be an option here that will say to open anyway, but you do have to open your security settings to be able to do it. You can't do it from opening. You're just going to try and open it again and again, and you'll end up with a screen or an alert that says, this is not a known developer, to protect your system, blah, 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 blah. I don't know the exact text of it off the top of my head. If you want to do that, it should indicate that you go into the security settings to be able to approve it anyway, if you feel confident that you can use it. It's to add another check to it. So in the event that that happens, that even though you've set your setting to App Store and known developers here in your privacy and security settings, there will be an option that shows up here if you open it immediately after trying to open a piece of software from an unknown developer. If it gives you that error for opening LibreOffice, it will give you the option here that says, do you want to open it anyway? And then you want to click yes, open it anyway, and then it will allow you to open it. It might still give you the alert that I saw, which is this is software from the internet. You want to make sure to open it. It's trying to protect your system as best as possible, but you do want to open it anyway. And that's going to give you your ability to access that program, and that should make it so you're all set. If you do run into other issues with signatures or things like that, let me know and we'll troubleshoot it. Invariably something happens. It's one of the challenges of working across platform software. The benefit is that we can run it and run the same program across different types of users, but even that being the case, it means that there are sometimes some give and takes on what allows that to happen. So in this case, that can be there. So if you run into a Java runtime error, that's something that historically we've seen. I haven't seen it recently for it. I think that's been fixed with more recent system softwares. But if you have older system software and you run into that problem, let me know. Try it earlier rather than later, so that we can troubleshoot that to make sure that you can do this. Sometimes it's not possible, but that is why the assignment is also structured in such a way that you can work through it logically as well. That's why we don't build a very complicated database together, so that we don't lose the thread on what we're trying to accomplish. In our next videos, we're going to be jumping into the program, so if you are having issues, get in touch before you jump into those. You can look at them ahead of time, but if you can't get the program to open, it's not going to get you very far, but we'll make that work.